Today we're learning my 5 favorite push transitions in PowerPoint to take your presentations to the next level. Let's start with number 5, which is using it for timelines. Because very often when we make timelines, it is hard to cram all the information in, so that's why the push transition can help us to expand the slides in our timelines. Let's start from a blank slide, and let's right-click Format Background, and let's give this one a off-white background. That way it's less harsh. First thing we're going to do is we're going to add a shape and a line, and a simple line from somewhere halfway, hold shift and drag it all the way till the edge. We want to change the outline, so we're going to add it or make it darker. Also going to increase the weight to about 2 points. You can really choose if you want something less thick, you can control it here, right click format shape, or you can just modify it here. Let's do maybe 1.75, that looks good. Next, we want to start adding the stops or the circles for the timeline. So go to Shapes, Circle. We're going to hold Shift and drag a circle on the screen. For the first one, we want to select the same color as the background and then add the same outline color with the same thickness of 1.75. We're going to hold Control, Shift and drag to create a copy. And this one we're going to fill with a yellow shape and remove the outline. Hold Control Shift again to make it a little bit smaller. That way we decrease it from the center and position it in the middle. You can hold Control and scroll to zoom in. Let's make it slightly larger. That looks about right. Now we're going to add a text box. Drag a text box in here and type in 1. You can type in any other number that you want. Let's go for Avenir Next, make it bold and make it darker. Center it in the middle, increase the font size to about 20, and then center it in the middle of everything. You can also select them all, arrange, align to center, and arrange, align to middle. That way everything is positioned correctly. Ctrl G to group everything and then position them on the side. This is our first stop that we have created. Now let's add some text to it. Let's add a text box and a title. Let's do Lorem Ipsum, dummy text. Change the font to Avenir Next. We're going for the sub font bold, center it in the middle, and then position it on top and in the center of the first stop. Let's add another text box for some more dummy text. Reduce the font size to somewhere around 12, center everything in the middle, and then position it evenly so there's equal spacing between the number, the title, and the text. If you're happy, you can select everything, Ctrl Shift and drag to create a copy, and then you can do that once more to create a third version. Then you just change the numbers or the dates or whatever you want to fill in. Let's just do 1, 2, 3 to keep it simple. And the middle one, let's drag it downwards. That way we have quite a good balance on the slide with 2 upper ones and 1 below the line. Select one of the text boxes, Ctrl Shift and drag it upwards. And let's call this one timeline. Let's add a title. And let's make this 25 or even bigger, 40 something. That looks better. Ctrl Shift to create a copy. And the subtitle, we're going to use something ultra light. Reduce the font size a bit. And it can be whatever you want. Let's say easy to edit. Make it a bit smaller, about 20 is good. And then if you want to stay in the same color theme, you can always add a rectangle, drag it so it's just a little bit bigger than the easy to edit, remove the outlines, and then drag it on top of the subtitle, right click, send to back. And this way it's a nice subtitle that jumps out a little bit more. We want to right click, duplicate the slide. And now we're just going to shift the line from the back, hold shift and drag it to the left, change your numbers. This one becomes 4, 5, and 6. On this one, we don't need the title anymore. And to keep everything balanced and in the same line or in the same order, here we go from up, down, up. We want to do down, up, down. That way we have some nice balance between the slides. So we're going to select the text here, drag it to the middle, drag this one to the left, and this one we're going to delete and create a copy from the one at the bottom. There we go. Now we can add some more elements to the slide. So for that, we go to Insert Icons. And then in the icons, let's look for people, where we select one or two groups of icons, insert, select them, make them a bit bigger, separate them, and then go to graphic or format graphic. And let's make it very subtle, so a transparency of 95, and position them both somewhere at the bottom of the slide. Let's do this one here. And then on the next slide, we're going to add this one in the middle. It really can be anything. It can be your company logo. It can be any sort of graphic that you want that really fills up the slide. Now we go to the second slide, go to the transitions tab, and we're going to use push. Of course, this looks a bit weird. So what we're going to do is the effect options and then push it from the right side. This goes quite fast. So we're going to increase the duration to about 2 seconds. And now let's preview what we have. And this is quite a nice timeline that if you click, you move to the next steps or the next part of your timeline. This way you sort of expand the slides a little bit and you don't make it too cluttered on one slide and still get a pretty nice effect. And that brings us to the second slide that we're going to create, which is the scrolling effect. I kind of like it because it gives like a website look and feel to your presentation, and it's actually not that hard to make, but it really puts that extra touch to your slides. Let's start from a blank slide, new slide, remove all the content, and I'm going to add this nice picture that I found online on Unsplash. I'll link it in the description below. What we want to do here is expand the image so it can cover about 3 times the slide that we have here. So we're going to make it just a little bit bigger, and this will fit about 3 times the original slide. Position it on your slide, right click, crop, and then we're going to adjust the crop area so it meets the slide. Do that on the left and the right, and then press enter. And this way we have part of the image that covers the entire slide nicely. We're going to right click, duplicate this slide. And then on the second slide, we're going to crop again. And then this shows us the entire picture again. And now we're just going to drag it upwards so everything aligns nicely. What we're going to do is we're going to hold the cursor at the bottom of the picture, hold shift and drag the picture upwards until your cursor meets the top. We're going to right click, duplicate, and do that once more. Again, go to crop, drag it from the bottom, hold shift, drag it upwards until it meets the border again. And now we have 3 parts of the image. We have to kind of split the image into 3 parts. Let's select the bottom 2 ones, push, and then set it to, again, 2 seconds. And let's already preview to see if we've done it right. This is the first slide. If we click, we push the image and it kind of scrolls down to the image, which gives a pretty cool effect. Now let's add some content to the slide. And for that, we're going to use some of the elements that we have already created, drag them on top of the image, change the font to white, increase the font size. Let's also expand the text box a bit and then modify the content. Let's call this one scrolling. Oops, expand it a bit more. Scrolling effect. And let's keep it in the same color theme. So we're going to change this one to yellow. Now let's add some content to the second slide. So let's copy this text box, position it on the left, make it a bit smaller, align to the left, give it a different title. Let's call this one Discover Nature. Make it maybe just a few ticks smaller. There we go. That looks good. Select the word nature, make it yellow. This way it pops out. Drag a text box below and then add your dummy text in the picture. Reduce the font size. Let's position everything downwards just a little bit. And maybe let's add some call to action button at the bottom here. Rounded rectangle, increase the roundness, and let's go for join us. Change the font type so everything is nicely aligned. Have it here next and make it dark. Maybe that's a bit too big. Let's make it smaller. That looks quite good. If the contrast is a little bit too small, or if you find it hard to read the text, you can do a few things. You can either format picture go to the picture settings, picture color. Here you can play with the settings of the image. You can make it darker, you can make it brighter, but in this case, I would say if you make it brighter, it's harder to read, but if you make it darker, it will become more easy to read. Let's put this one on -25, and maybe the top one, let's also correct that just a little bit. There we go. That makes it easier to read. You can always add a rectangle behind it or some shading to the slide that will help. And let's create the last slide. And for that, we're going to add 3 circles. Let's make them white. And let's add some content, maybe in similar style as this one. Let's copy that. Paste it below the circle. Make the font white. Select all 3, arrange, align to center. That way everything is centered. And then hold Ctrl-Shift to create a copy. And do that once more, so we have 3. Insert, icons, and then let's look for some nature-inspired icons. Could be this one, the road. Let's go for outlines, the nice leaf, and maybe a plant growing. Insert, and then you can drag them on top of the circles, and the other one goes there. And this one we want to center in the middle as well. Maybe also add the yellow touch, so select the titles, make them yellow, and that instantly gives quite a consistent look and feel to your slide. Select both of these slides, transition, push, make sure everything is ready with the push transition, and now let's preview what we have. And here we can see the scrolling effect in PowerPoint using the push transition. It kind of gives a website sort of look and feel to your slides, and I think it's a really modern touch that just adds that little bit of extra to your slide. And this brings us to the third part of the push transitions, which is connecting. And you can connect with colors or you can connect with pictures to really give creative slides for your presentation. Let's start from a blank slide. Right click, click on new slide. We remove all the content because we don't need it. Right click, format background, and we're going to give it a dark fill. Now we're going to use some of the text elements. So let's copy the text here, paste the text on top, and let's call this one connecting. Make it a bit larger, increase the font size, and let's use some dummy text, part of this one, and place it below. Maybe center it, make it just a little bit smaller. That looks good. Go to Insert, Icons, and in the icons, we're going to look for something that matches connection. So let's go for link and click on this link icon. Drag it on top and also let's give it a yellow color fill, and do the same with the font. Let's make this one yellow as well. Now we want to add the link to the next slide. So for that, we're going to use an arrow and drag the arrow on the side of your slide. We're going to remove the outline and then give that the same yellow color and just put it somewhere in the middle of your slide. This gives a direction that we want to move forward to the next slide. For that, we're going to create the second one, how to transition to a different color. And for that, we're creating a new slide. New slide, the fill, we're going to make it yellow, and then copy some of the elements, the text elements. Of course, we want to make this darker, so use that same dark color. And let's name this colors. Go to icons again and look for something that matches with colors. There we go, color palette. That way we have some consistency in the slides. So now we made the transition from a dark slide to a yellow slide. And if we want to go to a dark slide again, we can also add a little bit of an extra element. And for that, we're going to add a triangle, drag it all the way from the top to the bottom of your slide. And then you have this little handle at the top, which you can drag all the way to the right, remove the outlines, and give it the color of your next slide. In our case, it's going to be a dark one. And this gives some overlap, some spillover to the next slide. So if we now create a new slide, make this one dark again, remove the content, and let's copy some elements. Let's already set the next one in place for pictures. We can see that between the previous slide, we have this same color, and if we use that push transition, it will nicely spill over to the next picture slide. Here, let's also add a icon of picture. That way we are consistent. Make it yellow and drag it to the top. If we now add the push transition to both slides, let's go to transitions, push, and then from right, increase the duration to 1.75. Let's already preview what we have. This is the first opening slide with the indication that we want to move to the right. We push it, it nicely pushes to a new slide, which is mainly yellow in color. And you already see that little overlap if you push to the next slide to a fully dark slide. So this is converting or transitioning with colors, but we can also do something with pictures. For that, let's create a new slide. And here we want to add a nice picture to the background. You can find any picture that you like. And then let's close these for a second. Right click, crop. And we're going to make it about the size of the slide with a little bit of an overlap to the left. Increase the picture so it fills the crop box. Center it in the middle and nicely on the slide. Right click, format picture. We don't want colors in this presentation, so we're going to picture corrections, picture color, and then we select the black and white version. And now we can see if we drag this picture down, we have filled the complete slide, but also have some overlap on the left. Position it correctly, right click, copy, go to the previous slide. Here we're going to insert the same triangle. Drag it to the right, remove outline, right click, format shape, and then we're going to click on picture fill. And for that, we're going to use what we have on the clipboard. Select tile picture as texture. This way it doesn't distort or it doesn't put everything on that small triangle. And then if it's rotating, you can select or deselect this or rotate on shape. In our case, it's not needed. And if we now add the push transition to that same slide, also from the right, and increase the duration 1.75. Let's, for consistency, also add some text to the slide. Maybe this could be your thank you slide. There we go. Let's align it to the right. That will look a bit better. Align to right, and then also the alignment itself. There we go. And now let's preview the entire part. This is how you can use colors and the push transition to connect using colors, transitioning from one bright color to another, as well as pictures that you have a little bit of an overlap on your slide to create a cool dynamic effect in PowerPoint. This brings us to the next one, which is going to be comparing things with each other. For example, pros and cons in slides. For that, we're going to create a new slide, remove everything, go to format background, and let's make this one yellow. Let's stick to the same theme. We're going to drag one of our laptop mockups on the screen here, and then we're going to position it halfway to the right, so right in the middle of the slide. If you want to learn how to make this mockup, I'll link the tutorial in the description below. We also want to add something on the screen, so for that, let's take a nice picture and then add it on the screen of the laptop. And there we have it. You can group everything together if you want. That way you have one object to play around with. Let's add some content to the slide, and for that we're going to use some text box. You know what, let's just copy it from the previous slides. That's going to be a little bit faster. Let's take this timeline, call this one pros, and then also copy some text. Let's align to the right, also alignment to the right, make this a bit smaller and increase this size. This is a bit too bold. Let's look for another alternative, maybe the medium. That will look better. And then we're going to hold Ctrl Shift and drag to create some copies. 1, 2, let's do one more. And I'm going to make this even less bold. Let's go for regular or even light, because I'm going to use light on this one. Make the font size smaller, group everything together, and then position it nicely next to the laptop. We're adding one more thing, which is a circle on the left and no outline, and we're going to make it dark. And here we're going to add a check mark. So go to Insert, Icons, and let's look for a check mark, Insert, and then make this one yellow. There we go. Now we're going to duplicate the slide, and this is going to be our con slide. Format background. This one we're going to make it dark, which means we also need to change our fonts. Let's make these yellow. Align to the left. Align to the left again. Change that shape to yellow. And then the check mark, we can delete it for now. We're going to use a cross in a second. Drag everything to the other side. Do the same with the laptop. Position it in the middle on the other side. All the text boxes. We have to ungroup this. Align to left. There, that's better. Position it on the same place. Do the same with the circle. Insert icons. And here we do a cross. And drag the cross on top of the circle. For the color, we're going to use this same color. And now we have created two slides. Let's position everything at about the same distance from each other. And this way we have a pro slide and a con slide. If we now add a transition, the push transition, from the right again, increase the duration. Let's preview what we have. And this is a pretty cool way to show pros and cons of a different product. You can put your product in the middle, you can really play around with it and customize it in your own way. But I think it's a really nice effect that you can create in PowerPoint, which is a little bit more dynamic and you can really focus in on the pros or the cons one at a time. This brings us to the last push transition, which is creating a roadmap or really linking the slides together. And this is a pretty cool roadmap that whenever you click, it kind of links in between the slides and it gives a pretty cool dynamic look and feel with people looking forward to what is going on the next slide. And it really puts that little extra touch to your slides and your presentation. It's a fun way to present and I really like to use this one quite a lot. Let's start from a blank slide, remove everything and make it dark. We're going to copy some of the items from the previous slide. That will save us some time. Let's call this roadmap. And then we're going to add a little circle. Let's stick to the yellow element. Remove the outline. Make sure we use the right tone of yellow. Shapes. And we're going to add a line from the bottom of the circle all the way to the bottom of the slide. We're going to make this one white. And the weight, we're going to put it on maybe one more, let's say around 2. Position it down just a little bit. That a roadmap is centered on the slide. There we go. Next, we want to create a slide that is connected to this, and we're going to use this line as the element that stays the same on all the slides and that connects them together. So let's duplicate the slide, Control D, get rid of some of the elements. We're going to drag this line to the top. We're going to do the same with the yellow dot. Bring it to the front. And then let's add some elements to the slide. Let's add a text box to the slide, center it in the middle, and call this one, let's say, step 1. And then some dummy text, lorem ipsum dollars. Let's make this one white. That way it stands out a little bit more. Increase the size of the text box and reduce the font size to, let's put it on 32. There we go. That looks quite balanced. Maybe some more dummy text if you want on the slide. Let's fill it up that we have a realistic slide. There we go. Explaining whatever step 1 is in your case. And then we're going to copy the yellow dot and the line, put it horizontally, and then push it to the right side of the slide. Copy this page once more, drag the line all the way to the left, because that's where we're connecting from. Drag the yellow dot, put it to the front. Let's get rid of these. And maybe let's connect it to the other slide so we have a horizontal connection from left to right. Call this step 2, and you can add whichever elements that you want. You can reposition the content. That really depends on whatever you are using. But let's make sure that everything is nicely aligned and balanced. There we have step 2. Let's create one more. Duplicate slide. Get rid of those. We're connecting from the left. And let's align the entire box to the left. Do that once more. Position it to the right of the slide. Drag the dot to the middle. Connect the lines. And then let's add a connection line from the middle of the slide all the way to the bottom. And then a final slide to close off, duplicate, drag this one to the top. You get the idea. Do the same for the other button. Remove the text, put the text box in the middle, and let's call this one "Thank you for your attention." And let's make this white. Let's put this on the second line. Thank you for your attention. Center it in the middle. And now we're going to add the transitions to make this flow as a nice roadmap. First one, we want to push it downward. So we go to the second slide, and this one, we add a transition, push from the bottom. That is already correct. We only modify the duration to 1.75. From step 1 to step 2, we want to move to the right. So we go to the next slide and we add push transition, but from the right. Increase the duration and do the same for the other one. Push transition from the right. And here you can really play around with whichever order that you want. Push transition from the bottom. There we have it. And let's preview what we have. And this is a pretty cool roadmap that whenever you click, it kind of links in between the slides, and it gives a pretty cool dynamic look and feel with people looking forward to what is going on the next slide. And it really puts that little extra touch to your slides and your presentation. It's a fun way to present, and I really like to use this one a lot. And now you know my 5 favorite push transitions in PowerPoint, being a timeline, creating the scrolling effect, connecting the slides with either colors or pictures, using it for pros and cons, and creating a nice interactive dynamic roadmap on your slides. Thanks a lot for watching, and if you want to learn my favorite morph transitions, please watch the video on the screen right now.